Hello, this is Kathy from the Daily Marker. How are you today? I'm so excited to be part of Neat and Tangle's 5th birthday. Hooray! So I created this card. I wanted to show you how I did it. I used some of their new releases, and I love this iridescent sequins. It kind of takes on the color of whatever you're working with. So these are the dies and the stamp. I love how all these different things are cut out. And this is the sequence I'm going to be using. These are a few of the other products I got, but I want to use the stencil with the Hooray die and stamp set. It's a really cool stencil. You can like overlap. You can see how it is set up here. And it's fabulous for those of you who love ink, but I had I just couldn't decide what inks to use, what colors, and my markers were sitting there, so I'm like, I'm going to use my markers today. So I wanted to show you how I use Copic markers with stencils. It works really great. So I'm just bringing in a darker color. I'm using a medium and a dark for my balloons. And then I'm just going to color smash and go over that shading there. Super easy. And then I'll do the other balloon. So I'm just bringing in a little bit more now that my area is thoroughly saturated. And moving on to the second balloon here with like some greens. Well, actually turquoise kind of looks a little green. This marker is running a little dry, but that's okay. And then just bringing in another color. I'm literally just plucking these colors from what's on my desk. I'm not thinking about the numbers or how are they going to blend, because when you color smash, if you just work it enough, those colors eventually blend together. So I'm just working these balloons. If you move the stencil or something and you go a little bit out of the lines, that's okay. You can always use a zero blender to correct it. And when it's all said and done, you probably won't even notice it, because I didn't know where I was going with my card. But now that I know that, it's, well, whatever. But when you stamp that big, bold, gorgeous sentiment on top, it really allows for mistakes. So I'm moving on to balloon number 3, and it looks like I have another marker that's tinkering on running out, but just working on saturating that and then bringing in another color. And it really doesn't matter what colors you use, just experiment and play. These stencils are super cool, and I love how there's like 5 on each stencil, so you could really make a nice horizontal card. I just wanted to make a small rectangle. If you're using inks, it's really quick, and you can make a really super long horizontal with like 10 balloons. That'd be really cool. And I also added strings to mine, but I love the look without strings as well. And I worked on turning the balloons horizontally and then butting up the balloons end where you tie it together, just to make like a different design. And I think that would work really cool with ink. It didn't look as great with markers. But just thinking out of the box, you could just make a really cool background, turning your stencils in a different direction. So now I'm just working on number 4, and this is very basic coloring and shading, so anybody can do this. Just grab a marker and just throw down some color. I'm going to add a few little highlights, and then I'll be stamping that big, bold, gorgeous sentiment on top. I have to be honest, I love iridescent sequins and this new mix that they just released, but I wasn't sure how it was going to look with my card, because there isn't any of the colors in the sequin mix that are on my balloons. But just kind of magically it picked up the colors that I was working with, so I was really happy with how the results were. So I really like that. Now I've grabbed my Copic blending solution. Most of you know I use that all the time. I have a damp rag, and I'm just dabbing a little bit of the rag on there just to get a little texture, do a little bit more blending, just make it a little bit interesting. And then I'm using a fine tip Sharpie marker here just to do some little doodle strings on the balloons. Here's that gorgeous sentiment. It's really easy to make a 1-layer card with this. Just bang out a bunch of them, especially if you're using inks. But I know, I try and give you a different way to think about it because you're going to see so many gorgeous cards with these stencils and this whole collection. And Neat and Tangle is going to have a blog hop all week. God, can I even talk? Sorry about that. Okay, so now I butt up It's Your Day, hooray, against that. And now I want to make the shaker card. I've done videos with that before, but I have the frame here. And I'm just putting on some of the blue that I used to color the balloon with. Just a scribble color, super quick. And then I'm going to bring a darker color in the corners. And then I'll use the rag with the Copic blending solution just to add a little bit of oomph. I'd like the corners to be a little bit darker, so when I finish these 4 corners, I'm going to go over it again to darken that up. I do this a lot, and I just like the look of it. I don't know why. Okay, so now I'm using that. I need to add a little bit more. My bottle's almost out. I need to order more of this Copic blending solution. I love it. So I've added more to that. Always put the lid on that solution, by the way. So I'm just adding a little bit more texture there. And while I'm setting that aside to dry, I'm using some black fun foam for my frame for the shaker card. So I'm putting some glossy accents on that. I like it to be nice and thick. So glossy accents, and then I put this block on there. It takes a little while for glossy accents. Gosh, I need to calm down. Okay, for glossy accents to dry, so I set it aside and give it an hour for that. And then I'll work on the hooray while I do that. Now, it stuck on my, what is this? Whatever, the part of the die cutting. So I thought I'd take advantage of that. I used a pin to poke out the innards. And now I'm just using some glossy accents. This is the first layer's foam, and I'm adding black paper to the top of that. And then I'm just gonna smush that down. My plate is bent, so I'm trying to figure out how to make that flat. So I went and grabbed a weight, and I'm pushing that down because I want the hooray to have a flat surface so it'll dry evenly. Now, while that's already finished, I've come back, and now I'm going to glue the acetate part on the back of the fun foam, or on the top of the fun foam here, and then I'll put the frame on top of that. Now, I have to say I've run out of acetate. I don't have any, but I do have those clear sheets that you put in like a projector. So they're a little fuzzy on one side, but it works. So I use that. I've used some glossy accents to put my frame on, and I put it back under that stamp to let it dry. Now I want to use some multi-matte medium to attach the hooray on the top of that, I'm going to call it, that top shiny layer, that transparency. So I'm just dabbing that on the back of the hooray. I'm afraid glossy accents, I don't know, I just feel like matte medium is going to work better. So I'm just kind of focusing on the top half of hooray and putting a few dabs on the bottom. So I have to be super careful here. So I glued that on, and now I'm ready to assemble everything. So I put my balloons down, used some glossy accents for that. I've got my block on top of there, and while that's drying, I'm going to prepare my sequins. I want to make sure it's super dry before I do that. And I'm just putting down a little bit of these really pretty iridescent sequins. And now I'm ready to assemble my final layers. You know that on the back of that part of that foam, it's just the packaging that you see there. So that's it. It's all done. I hope you like it. It looks really cool with the die cut on the outside of that acetate. Sorry for my fumbles. I like to keep it real. And thank you to Neat and Tangled for letting me celebrate their 5th birthday. I have a road trip. I'm taking the coloring challenge on the road, so please check my blog for all the locations. I'll be releasing new locations as well. And all the supplies will be in the description area and the link to my blog. So have a great day, and thank you so much for watching. Thumbs up if you like this. All right, bye.